Director of Digital Strategy here at BCA.
Excited about our webinar today. How about you?
I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be a good one. Year-end best practices, how to stand out during this busy fundraising season. So
Okay, well, a few house cleaning things before we get started. For those of you who have questions along the way, we will cover those at the end. Feel free to enter them into the chat. There is a chat title Q&A. It's really Shane.
Yes, it
but
is.
Q&A, if you enter your question in there, we'll gather those and organize those at the end.
Yep.
One other thing, as usual, after this webinar, we will send an email out with a link that'll direct you to a version of this video so you can watch this webinar, share with other colleagues who may not be able to be on it today. We also keep all those resources on our website, cecilcommunication.com. You look up in the upper right hand of the nav bar, Resource Center, and we're actually starting to update content there pretty regular, blog articles.
Yeah, updating monthly, so multiple blogs, webinars, all that.
We have last month's webinar on there. We'll have this month's webinar on there. We'll just keep collecting things here. And as usual, if you have topics that you'd like us to cover for this webinar or even for articles on the blog, please let us know because we want to make sure that we're as relevant as possible. So with that, why don't you set up what we're talking about today?
Yeah, so today we're going to look at a few different things, but really answering the question, how do you stand out during the busy fundraising season, right? This isn't just a one-off campaign. Everybody's fundraising in year-end. So how do we stand out with all the noise, whether it's from a email from Target or from the mall or from another organization there? So we're going to be looking at standing out in email, standing out on our website with all the influx of new traffic to our website, and then standing out with digital ads.
So when it comes to email, I'm thinking Giving Tuesday and of course the last week of the year, we're sending a lot of email typically because we're trying to intensified strategy on Giving Tuesday, and at the year end we're trying to give a reminder for last minute gifts for tax deductions. Do you have any thought on that? Any kind of rhythm or throttle that you like to think about when you're thinking about that? Because what's too much, too little?
Yeah, no, I think that's great. So when we talk about standing out in email, and I'll kind of answer your question here in a little bit, but I think there's really three different ways that we can do that. We can kind of touch on it's one, sending email as a real person. Secondly, sending a plain text email versus like an HTML or highly designed email. And then giving rather than asking, which is a unique concept come year end whenever you're trying to fundraise. So kind of the first thing that we can talk about is sending email as a real person.
What does that mean, sending email as a real person?
I mean, sending an email from Jason Mitchell opposed to Brad Cecil and Associates, right? So
I see that in my inbox at Hotmail. Sorry to interrupt, but like it's sort of my subscription email. It's got all these orbs.
You said Hotmail, and I was like, that's a little dated, but okay.
Pretty 1999.
A little bit. But.
Anyway, every time there's a personal name that appears there, it does catch my attention. Is that, do I need to pay attention to that?
Well, it does actually. In 2019, less than 14%, 13.8% of all year-end emails sent by nonprofits were only sent by a real person. That means 86% of the emails that were sent from nonprofits during year-end were from either the organization or a non-human email address.
That's more than I would have guessed.
That's significantly, right? So that's a very easy way to stand out during year-end is to have that email come from Jason or a real person opposed to the actual organization's name.
Yeah.
By doing that, you're going to get significantly higher open rates typically. And again, whenever all of our email boxes are full, especially come year-end, that's just a great way to stand out.
Anecdotally, I know it's one data point and it's text, but probably 3 or 4 years ago, I began getting texts from my alma mater around Giving Tuesday, and it was from Nick, and he would say, "Hey, Jason, this is Nick from Sac State. Would you be willing to make a gift on Giving Tuesday?" And I'd always reply to see if Nick would reply, and I'd say, "Yeah, sure, Nick, no problem. Hey, thank you very much, Jason." And he said, "It's going to make a big difference in X, Y, and Z." And so I always felt like there was a little bit of a relationship. Now, it might have been Franco from New Jersey, really, but at the same time, the perception was a conversation was taking place.
Very personal, right?
Very personal.
Yeah.
And I gave every time. And then he didn't text me this last Giving Tuesday.
Did you give?
I did not.
Well, there you go. See?
But that's my bad because I was waiting for Nick to text me. But he's off succeeding in the world.
You were waiting.
Like all Sac State
building
grads.
that relationship, right? We always say people give to people, not necessarily machines. So it's building that one-to-one relationship, saying, "Hey, I know Nick from Sac State here," not necessarily giving to the organization as a whole. So that's a great story and just great reiteration as far as why we want to do that. Next, we have sending email as a plain text opposed to a highly designed HTML email, right? And the benefit behind that. We have a great example from a client of ours, Second Harvest Food Bank. We actually ran an A/B split for them where we had a designed HTML email. You can kind of see at the top there where it has, the banner image, the Give Now button. At the bottom, it has a Give Now button where it looks great. And then on the right-hand side, you have the treatment email, which is a plain text email. It actually looks like, the email came from Nancy, their president and CEO there. The treatment email actually led to a 16% increase in click-throughs and then a 36% increase in opens.
Interesting.
Very, very interesting. We actually went back and looked at it. Shane, Mr. Q&A here, just remember to shout out questions for him, went and pulled back the last 3 years of emails that we've sent for him. And this email, the plain text email, actually had the highest open and click rates of any email they've sent to their entire list over the last 3 years.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because I'm assuming the first time you do a plain text email probably does catch attention, but it's at least worth testing and to have a mix-in of that kind of email, right?
It definitely is. It's worth testing that. The first one you might get a few people commenting, things like that, because they're not used to receiving emails.
It almost literally feels like from their desktop.
Exactly, yeah. And that's a good thing. It helps build that connection, build that relationship to say, you know what, I actually know somebody at this organization. I have a relationship with Jason because he emails me on a regular basis, one-to-one.
Yep.
And then the next thing, and it might be kind of weird during the fundraising season, but that's giving rather than asking, right? We're sending a multitude of direct ask solicitation type emails during year end, which is a great thing. But we also want to help provide value, provide cultivation during that time. It's not just ask email after ask email. So actually giving something back. There's a couple of different ways that you can do that. It doesn't necessarily have to be a physical thing that we're giving back, but you could, do a personalized video, just a quick recording, thanking your subscribers or even your current donors, and letting them know the impact they've had over in 2022 for this year.
There's I'm sure you've heard of it. There's good tools for some of these things too. For like
free tools.
ThankView. I think it's an Evertrue product now, but they have a free level, and you can record a quick video and do one-to-one or one-to-many.
Your phone,
And I've received them, and they're pretty awesome because they're like, "Hey, Jason, thanks for the gift." You can throttle it certain levels, but
helps give that personal touch too.
Yeah, because it feels like you got a FaceTime call or a video from a friend.
So it's just, again, providing something of value. We talked about a video. You could do a testimonial of someone that was impacted by the organization or even someone that's at the organization.
Yeah.
That's just another way to help show impact that one, them as a donor and your organization has had. And then, a couple other things is just a heartfelt note from the CEO or an executive there. Again, just adding that personal touch is always a great thing. And then the last thing that we're doing, actually, even for some of our current organizations, is providing something of value. Maybe if you have like a specific ebook or white paper that is more of that, it's a digital, but it feels a little more physical, right? Providing that ebook helps provide that sense of value during a time where they're getting, potentially hundreds of solicitation type emails, maybe not just specifically from your organization.
Intuitively, it kind of makes sense, not just from a fundraising best practice perspective that we would not always be asking, but thanking and stewarding our donors on a regular basis.
Makes sense,
but
right?
It also seems like it would stand out at a time when we are getting a lot of solicitations during year end.
Yeah.
The insertion of a thank you and an appreciation message probably would go a long way.
I think it does. And you even mentioned too early on, you're talking about like list management, segmentation, things like that. And that's something else that I highly recommend doing with your emails is making sure that we're segmenting properly. Obviously, we can segment out like donor versus non-donor, send them specific communication that's viable for where they're at within your organization, right? But then also too, if you have a list of 10 emails that we're sending during year end, and they make a donation during that second email, let's go ahead and remove them from that segmentation list. Let's not send them another 8 emails asking for a donation when they already gave to that campaign kind of deal.
A little tone deaf.
Yeah, it's like, all right. But still also providing those cultivation type
and
emails.
The other thing that I think about too is if I was a nonprofit leader, and I'd be thinking, well, how can I respond to all the gifts at year end? Well, there may be a way to throttle it too, because some of the gift processing systems or donation page systems, they can provide notifications upon gift fulfillment. And so that might be something to pay attention to, what gifts at a certain size you may want to pay attention to.
Definitely.
So that you could throttle and, put staff on sort of some personalized messages if you can't get to everybody.
Yeah, and especially whenever you're talking about like a mid or major level donor, I wouldn't recommend sending out the same strategy for across the board. Definitely segment out those mid to major level donors. Your major level donors are going to be that little more personal touch, whether it's a phone call
Sure.
or a true one-to-one type email.
Yeah.
Cultivating them, asking for that year-end gift.
Sure.
So
It's awesome.
Yep. Next we have how do you stand out during your website, right? During year-end, it's important to take advantage of all that added traffic that's going to be on your website during year-end. How do we best do that? How do we capture that information and those people to convert them into donors, right? There's really a couple of different ways that we can do that. There's like a sticky bar or a light box. We could do like a homepage takeover, which we've done for a few of our clients. And also helping provide a sense of urgency. You could do like a countdown clock or like a thermometer as well.
Question for you.
Answer maybe.
You made that term up, sticky bar. Is that a real term?
I did. Well, Halloween was right here. I had a payday. I was like, it's like a little sticky bar. You can kind of see on the screen, hopefully there, what a sticky bar and a light box is and kind of the differences there. The top left, you have a light box or a pop-up. So whenever they go to the website, you actually have that pop-up. And again, it's just really making them aware of a specific campaign or if you have a match. The sticky bar, that's actually going to live at the top of your website. So it's a bar that goes across your website and it's sticky, so it'll
float
move
with you, right?
Yeah. It'll move.
Whereas you have to close out the light box, or it'll go away after a certain time.
Exactly. Yeah. Light boxes usually it's going to be a little more invasive. It's going to pop up right there on the screen, regardless of what they're doing. They have to exit out of it. Sticky bars are going to live there always, kind of deal. It doesn't necessarily impede what they're doing on the website. It's just, again, a way to draw their attention to that specific campaign. Next, we have a homepage takeover.
Yep.
So homepage takeover is, we've done that for a few of our clients now. And essentially what we do is you take over the homepage of the website. So if they're going to xyz.org, the homepage of your website, rather than landing on that homepage, we actually redirect them to a specific donation page that has value proposition, has copy that's about that campaign. So it's about the year end, it's about match, it's about Giving Tuesday, during that specific time, and it asks for a donation. Whenever we do a homepage takeover, I recommend doing a couple of different things. One, maybe only have it show up on their first visit. So if they revisit your website during that same day or that same time period, they actually get to go to the website they're looking for. Also having a button on there too that just says, take me back to, xyz.org, the homepage of the website, so that they can, if they're looking to get to a specific piece of information on your website, they can get to that information.
And I assume, and you probably partially answered it there, but could you just sort of walk through how you might view sticky bar versus light box versus homepage takeover strategically?
Timing's important when these are, right? So for a sticky bar or a pop-up, we might run those the length of the campaign. Mm-hmm. We talked about really year-end campaigns starting in mid-November and going to the end of the year. You might have a sticky bar or a light box that run that entire 1 month or 6 week period. Again, it's more just bringing awareness to this campaign that's happening right now. Where a homepage takeover, you do not want to do that year round. You're going to get some frustrated people potentially that are trying to get to important information on your website, but are unable to if you run that for a week even. So usually homepage takeovers
for special times of the year.
Special times of the year. You might run it on Giving Tuesday. You might run it on the last day of the year, kind of deal. But I wouldn't run it for an extended period of time.
Yeah, you probably have to ask permission from other departments to get that one on there.
Definitely. And too, the good thing about it, using like a Google Optimize, which is another great resource out there. You can segment out. If you're trying to get to like, hey, if people are trying to get to like a help section on my website, I want them to be able to get to that section. So you can exclude certain URLs as well.
And you said Google Optimized. You went through there pretty quickly. Can you explain what that is for folks who might not be super familiar with that? It's a platform that allows you to do what, including these kinds of things?
So it's a platform owned by Google. It's free to use. It's another great free resource, and we use it for really all of our A/B testing. You can also use it for making edits, quick changes like a homepage takeover, pop-up, sticky bar on your website or even on the donation page.
So you're actually making the edits in Google Optimize, and it's affecting the donation page or whatever page that you're
Whatever page that you have,
Yep.
yeah. And it's just a simple snippet of code that you can plug in on there. So
Great.
And then the last thing, as far as standing out on your website, and this is maybe website and donation specific, but is adding like a countdown clock or a thermometer on that donation page. You can even add like a countdown clock, even on like the sticky bar or a pop-up. What that does is just helps provide that sense of urgency, right? So people
Double jeopardy. Countdown clock on a sticky bar.
roll the dice.
Pushing
It could work out well. No, it's not pushing it. It's,
Okay.
I recommend it kind of deal. It helps, again, provide that sense of urgency.
Sure.
People see that and they're like, oh man, it's, I got 5 hours left to make my gift, especially if you have like a match, things like that. I will say a quick caveat whenever you do those thermometers is I would make sure not to put the thermometer up until you get closer to that match, right? Or closer to that goal.
To the goal, yeah.
Yeah, if you have a goal of $100,000,
4%.
yeah, and it's like, hey, we got $1,000, we only got $99,000 more to go. That's almost discouraging and creates more friction than it does help.
Yeah, because people want to join a winning concern, a winning campaign.
They do, and they want to feel like their gift's making more of an
Sure.
impact.
Yeah.
And if you're only a couple $1,000s shy, it's like, okay, yeah, my gift does make more of an impact.
Right.
So I'd wait till you get about 3/4 of the way through before you actually make that visible.
And there's some free plugins, free.
Plenty of free countdown clocks. A lot of even donation platforms that will have a thermometer on there that you can utilize, like a goal setting deal. So
Yeah, WordPress does for sure, right?
Yeah, WordPress does. Donor Perfect, GiveEffect. So a lot of donation softwares out there that probably a lot of our clients and other clients out there use. They have free tools for that, free resources. So
all right. So what about digital ads?
Yeah, so digital ads are great, and I think a lot of nonprofits out there might have a lot of questions about it. That's where I receive at least a lot of my questions on, as far as like, when do I start running my ads? How much do I spend? Who do I target? And it can be a little overwhelming at times, but we can simplify that pretty easy, I feel like. So when do you start running your ads? Really, again, I would run those whenever you launch the campaign. So if it's a Giving Tuesday campaign, you might run that for just the weekend before kind of deal. For the year-end campaign, it might run for the entire month of December. And one thing that we can do with that, whenever you're running ads, talking about budgets, how much should I spend, we can really ramp up day of. So like towards year-end, say you have a $1,000 budget for your year-end campaign that runs for the month of December, we might take $500 of that budget, half of that budget, and really just utilize it on the last couple of days of the year. So we're ramping up towards the end, again, helping provide that sense of urgency of give now kind of deal.
Yeah.
So that's as far as where I'd start running and really how much to spend. It does vary. I would recommend at least a budget of $500 when spending that.
Why is that?
Well, you want to give it, and I talk ads. There's a couple different systems, I guess, too, and that's something that we should clarify. There's Facebook Display and Grant, specifically with Facebook and how we run those. They have their own algorithm. We use their Facebook Pixel. We want to make sure that it has enough budget and enough time, and we're targeting enough people for it to learn. We optimize for a purchase, or Facebook calls it a purchase, a donation. So whenever we optimize that, we want to make sure that it has enough time to learn and actually know who to target and to yield best results, essentially. But that does kind of go to who do I target, what systems to use, what's kind of the difference in those systems. Facebook's a great system to acquire new donors as well as target existing donors. We can get real specific as far as who we want to target. We can also broaden that out as far as, hey, we just want to target people that visit our website or a lookalike of our current donors. Like, so we're acquiring new donors in that sense, right? We can also do an uploaded list as well, where like a Google display, it's more brand awareness. We're reinforcement as well. A lot of times with our display ads, we'll target the same people, retarget the same people that we're sending direct mail pieces to.
Right.
That's the benefit at BCA of handling both the direct mail side and the digital side. We can attack it from both angles, so that, hey, if they're getting a letter in the mail, we're also hitting them on the internet as well.
As a reminder or
just a
re-emphasis. Reinforcement.
And then Google Grant, that's not necessarily going to be more donor focused. That's going to be more evergreen, and it's really going to be a lot more brand awareness. We do have some limitations on the type of type of ads and things like that we're allowed to run with the Google grant. So it's going to be, again, more brand awareness that we can use to help drive traffic to our website. So that kind of reiterizes the importance of kind of standing out on our website with different sticky bars.
So those platforms definitely provide different strategies. With the Google grant, of course, there's a good amount of budget that's available to nonprofits if they're not already
$10,000 a month,
right?
yeah. And so if you're not already utilizing the Google grant, I mean it's free, so it's free money. It's up to $10,000 a month. Highly recommend doing that. We can even in our follow-up, we have an article on our website that talks about signing up for that and goes through the process. We can even send that article out.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Well, I think you hit on everything. I guess it might be time for some questions.
Yeah. Do we have any questions out there?
We might have a question out there.
Perfect. Well, what you got?
Well, let's, here's one.
Okay.
It says, do you recommend suppressing mid or major donors at year end or having a unique strategy?
I do.
Segmented strategy.
Yeah, I do. And I know we kind of touched on that a little bit. There are two different types of donors, right? Your broad-based donors, which again might come in a lot more digitally. The strategy that we have for them is going to be completely different, and how we talk to that donor is going to be completely different than how we're talking to a major donor, someone that's giving maybe $10,000, things like that. Where again we might do a personalized phone call. They're going to have maybe a lot more questions on how those funds are being utilized, things like that. And I know I think Brad's actually in the next webinar going to talk a little bit more about specifically mid and major level donors.
Yep.
But I do recommend segmenting those out and having a completely different strategy.
Okay. Next one. Did the test results differ per segment? Was major donor response differ from general response?
I'm assuming they're talking about the Second Harvest email.
Yes.
That one we sent to their general list.
Okay.
So those responses are to their general list right there. So it's going to be to your more broad-based, their typical email segment.
Okay. Awesome. Let's see. And
That's a good question. That goes back to whenever we're testing, whether it's in email or testing on like a Google optimized, things like that, making sure that we're pulling the proper results and capturing the proper information as well. So if we are sending out different emails to like a major donor list opposed to your general list, making sure that we're notating that, maybe have either a different donation page set up or different UTM parameters set up so that we're capturing proper information and producing proper test results.
This last one we can handle in the email potentially too, but you mentioned free tools. Mm-hmm. Could you reference those resources again? I know I mentioned ThankView for video,
ThankView, which is a great one.
Google Optimize for sticky bars, light boxes testing.
Yep. And yeah, we can even in the follow-up email, which we'll probably get out tomorrow or this week for sure. We can send a link again for sending personalized video for the give back. There's ThankView for that. Google Optimize, highly recommend for testing. We install that on a lot of our clients. If you have questions on that, definitely reach out to us. More than happy to help you guys get that installed on your website and donation platforms. That's perfect for doing any A/B testing, things like that. We also talked about different countdown clocks or sticky bars or pop-ups. There's a lot of free resources out there. Google Optimize, you can do some of those things with as well. So it's a great resource, but we can send some of those out in the follow-up email.
Awesome. I think that's it. Like you said, thanks for attending the webinar today. You should expect to see an email from us kind of with follow-up. And again, as you mentioned, our founder, friend, and our president, Brad Cecil, will be here next month.
I'm beyond excited for it. It's going to be great.
Yeah, moves to make with major donors before end of year. So I think it's going to be a really good topic. We look forward to that. And again, all of our resources can be found cecilcommunication.com in the Resource Center. Yep. Thanks again.
Thank you all.